back in person, isn't it? Oh, and this was your first Sunday day back, and I'm just honored to be the one to get things started. So let me just give you a quick little update in terms of what I've been up to most recently, and that is within the last week. My daughter heads up a camp, and she's preparing for 550 little ones to show up tomorrow. And so I went up to Rhode Island to get her set up last week. And I got to work with the counselors. I got to work with all of the administration. And what was I working on? Of course, what I always work on, and that's DEI-related stuff. However, they really energized me, you all, being around youth. So I'm going to share some of that youthful energy with you all if you choose to participate. And even if you're in cyberspace, you can do it in your PJs. I'm going to ask you all to stand up too. So if you're inclined, stand up. It's not necessary. But what I want us to do is I want us to raise our vibration. Because one of the ways that you start to envision at higher levels is you have to vibrate at higher levels. So this is a little thing that I learned at camp, you all. And we're not going to do the full countdown because we've been here a while. So we're going to count down from 5 to 1, and I'll share with you what it looks like. So 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it picks up the pace when you get to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 1. You may sit down. So I'm feeling youthful. Thank you all. But there is truth to the fact that if you vibrate at a higher level, you think on that level, and therefore you create and manifest at that level as well. So a higher vision. To ground this, I'll share with you a statement from the Global Vision. We envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. A world where each and every person discovers their own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. So allowing life's highest vision of itself to be known in our individualized human awareness opens us to completely new and expansive ideas, a wholly new experience to direct the mind, divine mind of the infinite within our own minds. So in one of my favorite books, you all, and I always heard a lot about this because I tend to cite it a lot, there's a book and it's called The Christ Returns and Speaks His Truth. And so in that particular book, the Christ said that you need a higher vision in order to bring about radical changes in the world. High-minded people, you all, enlightened people, they understand that what the world needs now is love. And in order for us to experience more love, then those of us who understand that, those of us who walk our truth, who live our truth, we are spreading love. And the thing about it is it has a ripple effect, right? You extend love right here to you. And then I want you to turn around and give it to someone else. Could you turn around and spread the love, please? All right, okay. And so that's how it works, you all. You know, it starts with one individual. All you have to do is hold the thought, think lofty thoughts, and then your behavior and your feeling nature takes on that thought, right? And then it becomes manifest. And you all know that we have the power right where we are to make an indelible impression upon the planet. It all begins with each one of us. So I want to share with you. We're going to take a little trip back in history. And guess what? It's not even good. Well, it's not our story. It's not a U.S. story. It's more of England's story, which is a part of our story in some way. But in the last 5,000 centuries, our individual human development here on Earth, we know about the things that have happened, the thoughts that people have had, the lifestyle that people have lived. And that's because we've had it documented by our philosophers, by historians. And you know what? It happens, and we read about it in different cultures and different countries. So changes in thought and changes in lifestyle, they didn't just happen. They took place because of the changing blueprint of consciousness, right? Consciousness taking place in the highly intelligent minds of advanced thinkers. They presented their thoughts and their ideas to the public, and as these ideas were respectfully absorbed by the public, so did the ideas take on different shape and different forms in the human mind of the populace. So gradually, new ideas appeared manifested as a slightly new mode of behavior, and it affected national life, generally in one form or another. So any and all changes have taken place as a result of someone having an idea, which impacts strongly on the public sensitivities if those individuals are, of course, able to influence others. We absorb them. We begin thinking. And this is a form or an aspect of common sense. If it makes sense, if it affirms life, if it uplifts, if it changes things in a positive way, then maybe we should adapt and embrace these ideas. And so, to build new perceptions of what's possible, you all, it needs to be grounded in common sense. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves rejecting the ideas. Yes? Yeah, well, I'm going to throw that away. I'm going to swipe left on that one. So, as I mentioned, let's take a look at England. So, during the Victorian and Edwardian eras, and this was between 1845 and 1919 specifically, you may remember that life in England was very disciplined by the strong traditional rules imposed by laws from the Parliament and by members of the upper classes. And all of these laws and rules were gradually formulated by generations living comparatively roughly, but gradually being smoothed and refined by the developing thoughts of the thinkers within that geography. As a result of the visions of those thinkers, the various accoutrements of civilization were adopted, such as sanitation, paved streets, places of refuge to help the underprivileged. And here's a diversity tidbit. I know that Jody knows this. The underprivileged were the individuals who had hands in their cats in their hands, and they would go out and they would ask for money. So that all evolved into handicap. I like etymology. All right, so anyway, I digress. Let's get back. Manners became strictly streamlined to enable people to live peacefully with each other. And the people attended church and they listened to what the clergy had to say. Usually it was about hell and damnation. And of course, the consequences for committing sin. The English people were able to live tranquil lives because of the disciplines voluntarily adopted by the nation as a whole. And this continued until the hidden and subversive elements of human thought and consciousness erupted in war. All strong emotional thought must manifest eventually. So the conflict brought an opportunity to young men to express their hidden aggressive tendencies, which had until then remained suppressed. Why? Because it was required. We are civilized people and culture. So social scientists assert that this is one reason why the men and the boys flocked to join the war in 1914. So when the war was over, the consciousness of the populace changed again because it had experienced the pain and the anguish of the manifestation of human, subversive, aggressive impulses, active whenever you are in war or conflict. So the English people wanted no more war. Along with the populace change in consciousness, the churches no longer held folks' attention. They were not able to influence people to the extent that they had before the war. Between 1939 and 1945, society was in upheaval. The previously downtrodden masses directed into three fighting forces in the war had an opportunity to demonstrate unsuspected intelligence and skills. As a result, the class barriers were largely broken down. They started to crumble down. And the previously underprivileged people were given the opportunity to further their education and to move into more professional positions. So sadly, these opportunities took place in consciousness too, inherited from childhood in impoverished homes that were not replaced by life-affirming, life-giving thoughts. The former, felling of life not being fair or being rejected by the wealthy, remained and produced a great deal of negative reaction. Instead of the new opportunities afforded to people, generally producing a high degree of elation of spirit, a belief in success, achievement, and happiness, there was also an extremely negative, undermining consciousness at work in the minds of the population, destroying much of the well-being and joy that should have been built up after the war. With the advent of a huge amount of technical skills and discoveries contributing to the general well-being of all human beings. But in search of fun, the rules for living, decent lives were relaxed and gradually cast aside with the result of the ill effects of undisciplined living. It imbued the consciousness of the masses. They began to experience high levels of misery, despair as a result of emotional upheavals. That these in turn led to abnormal reactions of aggression and hatred. And this, unfortunately, is where we are now, around the globe, not just in England. In addition to what has been going on in the collective consciousness, many externalized and little regard for sustaining the planetary behaviors and experiences that we have hugely negatively affected our planet, our Mother Earth. And as I said, there is power in our thought. There is first, the antecedent is the thought. Then we take on the feeling nature. Then it's followed by behavior. And then, of course, we live with the consequences of our behaviors, which are really our thought, made manifest. So everything in life is consciousness. We cannot think that it only applies at certain times in certain situations. Every single thing is actually consciousness made visible, and our human minds are creating it minute by minute, thought by thought. It's a time to create a higher vision, I will submit to you, in order to bring about needed changes for and about human rights, life more abundant for all, not just the 1%, but 100% of the 99. And it's also time to rescue the planet. Ernest Holmes said, the highest consciousness is not one of possessions, but of being. The greater your consciousness of being, the more automatically will the law flow from this consciousness into the acquisition of the things that you desire. that comes from this thing called life. So we have, you all, available to us spiritual practices. How many of you actually vision? You all engage in the visioning practice. Wonderful. I'm going to encourage more of you to engage in the vision practice, because that's how we create in our own minds a higher vision, and that's how we begin to bring that higher vision into existence. So by going within and meditating on a few significant questions, we can reach out with our minds to the vastness of space while contacting the source of all creation. So let us create a higher vision of a world that can be sustained, a world where social, racial, economic, and environmental justice are the norm. And so when you're practicing your visioning, I'm going to ask you all to incorporate, maybe doing this already, but if you're not, incorporate a different technique. When you go within and you close your eyes and you begin to envision that which you want to see and experience, make sure you are keeping your eyes tilted upward, Godward. Why? Because you are actually bringing in, attracting in more of the divine consciousness. You're making that connection. So stay Godward in your thinking and in your visioning. Surrender your will and ask to be filled with the divine consciousness so that you might be inspired with new ideas of oneness. So meditate on these questions. Divine consciousness, what is the highest ideal for life on this planet? What qualities of the divine must I embrace to manifest this ideal in my life, but not only in my life, but in the life of everyone else, all creatures, all beings, and of course, the planet. And what must I release, let go of, set free, because it does not serve the highest ideal for life on the planet or my life either. So those are the three questions that I invite you all in your visioning practice. And as you know, I just modified the visioning questions to speak to this particular vision. So after having received direct revelation from the divine, the degree to which you then embody oneness, the degree to which you embody wholeness, the degree to which we all embody that God itself is living its life in form through us. To that degree, we can allow this higher ideal to be made manifest as us, through us. So I invite you all to hold a higher vision, and I'd like to anchor this talk with a prayer. So if you could take that journey inward, however you do that, just for a moment. And take a deep breath in, and release and let it go. Divine consciousness, I give thanks for the inspiration, aspiration, vision, and ideas that help to usher in an era of unconditional love, which in turn will restore wholeness to the earth. An oasis of divine love in my environment. And as these oases manifest in my life, they will be made manifest within human society. I give thanks for humanity governing its behavior, whereby all are treated with the utmost of respect and dignity. And as this happens, prosperity will return to all and poverty will abate. Health is ever more flourishing, arising from the loving responses in people's hearts and minds. I give thanks for the benefits that I cannot even imagine as of yet. And I release my thoughts, my ideas, my words, and my vision to the laws of existence, knowing that they are becoming evidently visible right now, and thus bringing about the kingdom of heaven right here on earth. Breathe that in. Amen. Amen. Ashe. And so